The massive Imperial flagship hung in space like a dark cloud over Earth. Its hull stretched 20 miles long, decorated with the battle scars of 1,000 conquered worlds. Inside its primary diplomatic chamber, the air felt heavy with tension. 3 human representatives stood before the Imperial High Command. The chamber's metallic walls towered above them, designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. The space was cold, deliberately kept at a temperature uncomfortable for humans, but perfect for the Empire's representatives. Ambassador White stood in the center, his back straight despite his exhaustion. To his left, General Miller kept her hand close to her side, though they all knew weapons weren't allowed in this chamber. Director Reed completed their small group, clutching his data tablet with white knuckles. Across from them, seated on elevated platforms, the Imperial commanders looked down with their multiple eyes. Their gray skin reflected the harsh lighting, and their breathing apparatus made soft clicking sounds in the quiet room. High Commander Stone's voice boomed through the translator system. The terms are simple, humans. Your complete and unconditional surrender within 24 Earth hours. White stepped forward. The people of Earth have no intention of. You misunderstand. Stone interrupted. This is not a negotiation. The massive screens behind him lit up, showing the Imperial fleet's positions throughout the galaxy. We control 70% of known space. Our fleet outnumbers yours 1,000 to 1. We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Director Reed spoke up, his voice steady despite his trembling hands. We've studied your history, Commander. Every species that surrendered lost their autonomy. Their cultures were erased. Stone's upper eyes blinked in what humans had learned was amusement. Culture is inefficient. The Empire brings order, unity, purpose. He gestured to a smaller screen showing Earth. Your world is divided, chaotic. We will bring peace through uniformity. General Miller couldn't stay quiet any longer. You mean slavery? We've seen your uniform worlds. The Imperial officers stirred, their breathing apparatus clicking faster in agitation. Stone raised a hand, calming them. Your military expertise is admirable, General. Your forces fought well in the outer colonies, but surely you understand your situation is hopeless. The screens changed to show battles from the past month. Earth ships, though fighting bravely, being overwhelmed by Imperial numbers. Colonies falling one by one. The humans watched in silence. We have calculated that a full military invasion of Earth would cost us approximately 3% of our fleet, Stone continued. A regrettable waste of resources. Surrender now, and we will ensure your transition into the Empire is peaceful. Ambassador White stepped forward again. And if we refuse? Stone's breathing apparatus clicked slowly, a sound the humans had learned meant disappointment. Then we will take your world by force. Your cities will burn. Your populations will be relocated to labor worlds. Your children will be educated in Imperial schools until Earth becomes nothing but another efficient part of our machine. The chamber fell silent. The only sound was the soft hum of the massive ship's engines. 24 hours, Stone said finally. We will expect your world's surrender, broadcast on all frequencies, by this time tomorrow. You are dismissed. As the human representatives turned to leave, Stone spoke once more. Ambassador White. White turned back. Yes, I studied your history too. Your people have a remarkable talent for fighting unwinnable wars. Please don't make that mistake now. The Empire's victory is inevitable. The humans walked out of the chamber in silence. As they headed toward their shuttle, Director Reed whispered, "They don't know about the weapon." "No," White replied quietly. "They don't. And that's our only advantage." Their small shuttle detached from the Imperial flagship, beginning its descent toward Earth. Through the viewport, they could see hundreds of Imperial ships blocking out the stars. Tomorrow, they would either lose everything or reveal humanity's greatest secret. The fate of Earth would depend on something the Empire would never expect. 2 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, The Global Defense Council gathered in their emergency bunker. 50 screens covered the walls, showing real-time data from Earth's remaining defense systems. The room was filled with the world's most powerful leaders, but no one was talking. They all watched Admiral Thompson, who stood silently at the main display. "Show them," White said, breaking the silence. He had just finished reporting about the meeting on the Imperial flagship. Thompson nodded and pressed his palm against the scanner. The room's lights dimmed, and a hidden panel opened in the center of the floor. A small platform rose up, carrying what looked like an ordinary metal briefcase. "That's it," someone asked from the back of the room. "That's our secret weapon." "No," Thompson said, placing his hand on the case. "This just contains the proof of what we are." He looked around the room. "What we've always been." General Miller stepped forward. "Most of you were not cleared to know this before today. 20 years ago, during our first deep space mission to the Proxima system, we discovered something strange about ourselves." The briefcase opened with a soft click. Inside was a simple data crystal, glowing with a faint blue light. "The Empire thinks they know everything about us," Thompson continued. "They've studied our weapons, our technology, our military tactics. But they never understood why we're different from every other species they've encountered." He inserted the crystal into the main console. The screens around the room changed, showing brain scan data from various species. "Look at the neural patterns," Director Reed pointed at the displays. "Every alien species we've encountered, including the Empire, processes information in a linear way. Their brains are more advanced than ours in many ways, but they're missing something fundamental." The images changed to show human brain scans, lighting up in complex patterns. "We're the only ones who can do this," Thompson said softly. "The only ones who can create and understand what we're about to show them." "It's too risky," one of the council members stood up. "If we reveal this, there's no going back. Every species in the galaxy will know our secret." "If we don't use it," White replied, "there won't be a humanity left to keep secrets." Thompson pressed another button. The center of the room filled with a hologram, a recording of the London Symphony Orchestra performing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Along with the music, the display showed the neural responses of various alien species exposed to it. "The first time we played human music to alien listeners, we thought our instruments were malfunctioning," Reed explained. "Their brains couldn't process it. But it was more than that. When we combined music with our stories, with our art." He paused, letting the hologram show the results. The room fell silent as they watched the data. The alien neural patterns showed confusion, then chaos, then something entirely new. "We're the only ones who can create and understand complex music and narrative together," Thompson said. "The only ones who can weave emotions into sound and story in this way. To them, it's like giving sight to the blind, or teaching them a new sense they never knew existed." "And you think this will stop their fleet?" someone asked skeptically. "No," White stepped forward. "It will do something far more powerful. It will make them realize they need us." General Miller checked her watch. "We have 18 hours until their deadline. If we're going to do this, we need to prepare the demonstration now." Thompson closed the briefcase. "The Empire expects us to either surrender or show them some terrible weapon." He smiled slightly. "Instead, we're going to give them the greatest gift they've ever received. We're going to show them what it means to be human." The council voted. In the end, the decision was unanimous. As the world's leaders filed out to make preparations, Director Reed stayed behind, staring at the neural pattern displays. "You know," he said to Thompson, "in all their centuries of conquest, the Empire never understood why they couldn't break the human spirit." Thompson nodded. "After tomorrow, they'll understand. Art, music, stories, they're not just part of who we are. They're what make us human." Above them, the Imperial fleet waited, expecting submission. They had no idea they were about to experience something that would change the galaxy forever. 20 years earlier, The spaceship Explorer hung quietly in orbit around Proxima Centauri. Inside, Captain Roberts stared at his display screen, trying to understand what he was seeing. It was humanity's first mission beyond the solar system, and they had just made an unexpected discovery. "Play it again," he told the ship's computer. The screen showed an alien vessel they'd found drifting near Proxima. It was dead in space, its crew long gone. But its data banks still worked, containing recordings of a dozen different alien species. "Focus on their entertainment files," Roberts ordered. The screen filled with alien attempts at music, simple, rhythmic patterns without melody. Their stories were equally basic, following single, straight lines of thought. Dr. Evans, the ship's science officer, floated into the command room. "Captain, you need to see this." She pushed a tablet toward him. "I've been comparing their brain scans with ours." The images showed the neural patterns of various alien species trying to process human music. Their brains lit up in patterns of confusion, unable to handle the complexity. "They can't do it," Evans said quietly. "None of them can create or fully understand what we think of as music or complex stories. Their brains, they're just not wired for it." Roberts looked out the viewport at the stars. "How is that possible? Music is so basic, so fundamental." "To us," Evans corrected him. "Only to us." The memory shifted forward 6 months to the first official first contact. The Explorer's crew met with representatives from the traders, a peaceful species of space merchants. Roberts watched as Evans played them a simple Earth song, just a basic melody with harmony. The aliens' reaction was immediate and dramatic. Some fell to their knees. Others backed away in fear. Their translator units struggled to convey their response. How are you doing this? Creating these patterns of sound that make us feel." Evans tried to explain the concept of music theory, but the aliens couldn't grasp it. It was like trying to explain color to someone who could only see in black and white. 10 years later, in a secret research facility on Earth, Thompson, then just a junior officer, watched through a window as scientists play a full orchestra performance for a group of alien visitors. The aliens' neural monitors showed their brains attempting to adapt, to understand this new form of input. "It's not just the music," Dr. Evans said, now older and leading the research team. "Watch what happens when we add the story element." They played an opera, music and narrative combined. The aliens' neural patterns exploded with activity. Many of them wept, experiencing emotions they had no words for. "We're the only ones who can do this," Evans explained to Thompson. "The only species that can create and process these complex combinations of sound, story, and emotion. It's our gift, and possibly our greatest weapon." The memory shifted again to 5 years ago. The first Imperial ships appeared at the edge of human space. Evans, now approaching retirement, made her final report to the Defense Council. "They're coming to conquer us because they think they understand us," she said. "They've studied our weapons, our technology, our military capabilities, but they've never truly experienced what makes us unique. They don't know about the tests, about how their brains respond to our art." She played her final recordings, alien species experiencing human music and stories for the first time. Their responses ranged from overwhelming joy to deep sorrow, but always with the same result. They wanted more. In all their centuries of conquest, Evans concluded, the Empire has taken the resources of 1,000 worlds. But they've never found anything like this, never experienced anything like what we can give them. Now, in the present, Thompson stood in the bunker, remembering Evans' words. In a few hours, they would reveal humanity's gift to the Empire. But first, they had to prepare the performance that would change the galaxy. Above them, the Imperial fleet waited, their weapons ready. They had no idea they were about to experience something their species had never known: the full power of human creativity. The Imperial Senate chamber was massive, with seats for representatives from 1,000 conquered worlds. Today, every seat was filled. The Empire's highest officials gathered to witness Earth's surrender. At the center of the chamber stood a simple platform. Behind it, the Imperial fleet's displays showed Earth, still surrounded by warships. The 24-hour deadline was about to expire. High Commander Stone sat in his elevated position, his breathing apparatus clicking slowly as he watched the chamber's main entrance. The doors opened, and 3 humans walked in: Ambassador White, Admiral Thompson, and Director Reed. "You have come to present Earth's surrender." Stone's voice echoed through the chamber. White stepped forward. "No, Commander. We've come to show you something. Something no human has ever shared with the Empire." Murmurs filled the chamber. Stone's upper eyes blinked rapidly. "You were warned. If you reject our mercy—" "Before you destroy our world," Thompson interrupted, "Imperial law requires you to witness our final presentation. Or do you deny us even that basic right?" Stone clicked in irritation. He had to follow protocol, especially with so many witnesses. "Proceed. You have 10 minutes." Reed stepped forward and placed a small device on the platform. "We ask only that you watch and listen. What you're about to experience has been carefully designed for your neural patterns." The chamber lights dimmed. A soft blue light emerged from the device, forming a hologram in the air. The image showed a single human figure, a woman in a simple dress. "What is this?" Stone demanded. Then she began to sing. The first notes of the aria filled the chamber. The Imperial senators stiffened in their seats. They had never heard anything like it. The woman's voice soared, carrying emotion in a way their species had never experienced. Around the chamber, neural monitors began to flash warnings. The aliens' brains were encountering something completely new, trying to process this strange combination of sound, story, and feeling. A hologram expanded. More singers appeared, their voices weaving together in harmony. The story began to unfold, a tale of love, loss, and hope told through music. The aliens watched, transfixed. Some gripped their seats, others trembled. High Commander Stone tried to stand. To order it stopped, but found himself sinking back into his chair. His breathing apparatus clicked rapidly as his brain struggled to process these new sensations. The performance built to its crescendo. The combined human voices filled the chamber with a sound more powerful than any weapon, the pure expression of human emotion through art. When it ended, the chamber remained silent. Then, from somewhere in the back, a sound began. It took the humans a moment to realize what it was: crying. The Imperial senators were weeping, experiencing tears for the first time in their species' history. Stone's voice shook as he spoke. What have you done to us?" "We've given you a gift," White said softly, "a small taste of what humanity can offer. This is who we are. This is what we can share with the galaxy." Thompson stepped forward. "Your empire has conquered technology, territory, and resources, but you've never found anything like this. You can't create it. You can't reproduce it. You can only experience it through us." The neural monitors were still flashing. The alien brains were permanently changed by what they had witnessed. They would never be the same. "If you destroy Earth," Reed added, "you destroy the only source of this experience in the known galaxy. You'll never feel anything like this again." The chamber erupted in voices. Imperial senators were standing, demanding to experience more. Others were still wiping away their first tears, overwhelmed by emotions they had never known existed. High Commander Stone stared at the humans, his multiple eyes wide with understanding. His empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they had never encountered anything like this. For the first time in Imperial history, the conquerors realized they needed the conquered. The fate of the galaxy was about to change. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light speed. Within hours of the Senate performance, every Imperial communication channel was filled with the same message. The humans could do something impossible. In the Imperial flagship's private chamber, High Commander Stone sat alone, watching the reports flood in. His hand shook as he activated another recording from the performance. Even through the low-quality transmission, The effect was overwhelming. "Turn it off," he ordered quietly, his breathing apparatus clicking erratically. The music stopped, but the feeling remained. His species had never known what it was like to have their emotions touched this way. Outside his chamber, chaos was spreading through the fleet. On the bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Victory, Captain First Rank stood frozen, watching his crew. Half of them had removed their military badges. Some were crying, a behavior they had never displayed before. Others were demanding access to more human performances. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "we're getting similar reports from every ship in the fleet. The crews, they're not responding to orders. They just want to hear more of the human music." First Rank understood. He had been in the Senate chamber during the performance. He would never forget how it felt. Back on Earth, in the underground bunker, Admiral Thompson watched the reports coming in. Director Reed rushed into the room, holding his tablet. "It's working better than we expected," Reed said, showing Thompson the data. "Their neural patterns aren't just temporarily affected. They're being permanently altered. Every time they experience our art, their capacity for emotional response grows." Thompson nodded. "And they can't reproduce it themselves." "They've already tried. Their scientists have analyzed the sound patterns, tried to copy the compositions, but without our unique neural structure, they can't create true music or combine it with storytelling. They can only experience it through us." In the Imperial Palace on their home world, the Emperor himself demanded a private performance. The best human musicians were brought in, along with storytellers and artists. For 6 hours, the Emperor sat motionless, experiencing something his species had never known in their 1,000-year history. When it ended, he spoke a single word that was transmitted across the Empire: more. Across thousands of worlds, the impact spread. Imperial citizens who experienced human art found they could no longer live without it. Their minds, once focused only on conquest and order, began to understand beauty, emotion, and creativity. In the slave quarters of conquered worlds, forbidden recordings of human music spread like wildfire. Species that had lived under imperial control for generations began to feel something new: hope. Back in the Senate chamber, Ambassador White stood before the Imperial Council again. This time, the senators weren't looking down at him with contempt. They were begging. "We'll pay anything," one senator said. "Give you anything. Just let us experience more." White looked at the data Reed had prepared. In the past 12 hours, there have been no acts of violence anywhere in Imperial space where human music has been played. Your own scientists confirm that exposure to our art makes your species more empathetic, more capable of understanding others. High Commander Stone, his earlier arrogance gone, spoke quietly. "We thought we were the most advanced species in the galaxy. We measured advancement by technology, by military power. We never knew. We never imagined. That true power might lie in creativity, in the ability to touch others' hearts." White smiled. "That's what makes us human." The reports kept coming in. Imperial warships were standing down. Conquered peoples were being freed, all because humanity had shared something more powerful than any weapon: the ability to feel, to imagine, to create. In less than a day, the galaxy's greatest empire had been transformed. Not by force, not by fear, but by the simple, unique power of human art. And this was only the beginning. 1 week after the Senate performance, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Imperial News Network, which had only ever broadcast military announcements and propaganda, now played human music 24 hours a day. In the streets of the Imperial capital, millions gathered outside the Palace of Culture. They had one demand: more human art. The crowd included species that had been enemies for generations, all standing together, sharing bootleg recordings of Earth's symphonies. Admiral Thompson walked through the palace's grand hall, watching alien children learning their first Earth songs. Their parents stood nearby, weeping with joy as their children experienced emotions that had been denied to their species for thousands of years. "The latest reports are in," Director Reed said, joining him. "90% of Imperial territory has experienced some form of human art. The effects are remarkable." He showed Thompson his tablet. The data was clear. Everywhere human music and stories spread, violence dropped. Cooperation increased. Species that had been bitter enemies for centuries were working together, united by their shared experience of human creativity. On a distant mining world, a group of enslaved workers gathered in secret around a small hologram projector. On its display, a human orchestra played Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. The aliens watched in wonder, feeling strength and hope fill their hearts. For the first time, they could imagine a different future. The Imperial military was in chaos. High Commander Stone stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the reports flood in. Half his fleet had effectively mutinied, not violently, but simply by refusing to follow orders that conflicted with their new understanding of life. "Sir," his aide reported, "another 3 battle groups have declared themselves peacekeepers." The aide seemed confused by the word. "They're demanding that all worlds have equal access to human cultural broadcasts." Stone didn't respond. He was listening to a human piano concerto through his private headset, understanding for the first time in his long military career that there were things more powerful than weapons. Back on Earth, Ambassador White met with the Global Defense Council. The room was packed with representatives from every human nation, all watching the screens showing scenes from across the galaxy. "It's more than just entertainment to them," White explained. "Our art is literally rewiring their brains. They're developing emotional capabilities their species have never had. And they can only get it from us. The Empire's economy is shifting," Reed added. "Their biggest companies are abandoning weapons manufacturing to build concert halls. Their richest citizens are spending fortunes just to experience live human performances." On the screens, they watched as Imperial warships were being converted into cultural exhibition centers. Planets that had been strip-mined for resources were being transformed into artistic colonies, their new purpose to host human artists and share their work with the galaxy. In the Imperial Senate, a revolution of a different kind was taking place. The senators, once focused only on conquest and control, now debated the fair distribution of human art throughout the galaxy. Species that had never been allowed to speak were now given equal voice, united by their shared love of Earth's creativity. "We found reports of healing," Reed said, showing more data. "Species experiencing severe trauma from generations of war and oppression are using human music as therapy. Their doctors say the results are miraculous." Thompson stood at the window of the council chamber, looking up at the stars. The Imperial fleet that had threatened Earth just a week ago was still there, but their weapons were powered down. Instead of threats, they broadcast requests, begging for more songs, more stories, more of humanity's unique gift. "They thought they were coming to conquer us," Thompson said quietly. "Instead, we freed them. Freed them from limitations they never knew they had." The revolution wasn't being fought with weapons. It was being won with symphonies and stories, with art and emotion, with the unique power of human creativity. And it was only growing stronger. 1 month after humanity revealed its gift to the galaxy, the Imperial Palace hosted an event unlike any in its 1,000-year history. Representatives from every known species gathered in the Grand Hall, which had been converted into the largest concert venue in known space. High Commander Stone, no longer wearing his military uniform, stood on the stage. Behind him, a combined orchestra of humans and aliens prepared for the first-ever cross-species performance. The aliens couldn't create music themselves, but they had learned to play human instruments, following precise patterns to support the human musicians. A month ago, Stone addressed the gathering, his breathing apparatus now tuned to be in harmony with the music. "We thought we came to conquer Earth. We were wrong. Instead, Earth conquered our hearts." Ambassador White watched from the front row, seated between the Emperor and Admiral Thompson. The hall was packed with former enemies. Imperial generals sat next to leaders of resistance movements, all united by their shared love of human art. "The new treaty is ready," the Emperor said quietly to White. "Not a surrender, but a true alliance. Earth will be a cultural center of our new united galaxy." On the screens around the hall, billions watched across thousands of worlds. The broadcast was being translated into every known language. But the music they had discovered needed no translation. It spoke directly to the heart of every species. Director Reed's data tablet showed the final reports. The Empire's military budget had been redirected to cultural exchange programs. Weapons factories now produced musical instruments. Warships had been converted into traveling theaters and concert halls. The first notes of the performance began. Human violinists played alongside alien percussionists. A human soprano sang, her voice joined by the harmonic breathing sounds of stone species. The effect was unlike anything ever heard in the galaxy's history. "Look at this," Thompson whispered to White, showing him the latest intelligence. The few Imperial hardliners who had resisted the change were surrendering, not to weapons, but to the irresistible power of human creativity. The last pockets of violence in the galaxy were falling silent, replaced by song. The performance reached its climax. In the audience, species that had been mortal enemies wept together, their minds and hearts permanently changed by the experience. The human gift of art had done what no weapon could. It had brought true peace. As the last notes faded, the Emperor stood. "Let this mark the beginning of a new age," he announced. "No longer the Imperial age of conquest, but the human age of creativity." The new treaty was signed there, on stage, witnessed by the galaxy. Earth would share its art and culture freely with all species. In return, the combined resources of 1,000 worlds would be used to preserve, protect, and spread human creativity throughout space. The Galactic Cultural Exchange. White read from the document. "With Earth at its heart. Our music, our stories, our art, touching every world, every species, every heart in the galaxy." Stone removed his commander's insignia and placed it on the stage. "We thought we were the most advanced species," he said. "Now we understand that true advancement lies not in the power to destroy, but in the power to create, to feel, to share." The human orchestra began to play again. Around them, the former Imperial Palace continued its transformation into the galaxy's greatest concert hall. Outside, the city gleamed with new purpose. No longer the capital of an empire of fear, but the center of a civilization built on art and emotion. "They came to take everything from us," Thompson said quietly, watching the celebration. "Instead, we gave them the one thing they never knew they needed." White smiled. "And in doing so, we gained everything." Above them, the stars shone on a changed galaxy. The empire of conquest was gone, replaced by a civilization of culture. And at its heart was Earth, no longer a target for conquest, but the source of the greatest power the galaxy had ever known, the power of human creativity. The universe would never be the same.